Welcome, everyone, to the Culinary Now podcast. I'm Matt Britt.
And I'm Jamie Schick.
And today we are joined by Sam Burgess. Sam, how are you today?
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. It's another beautiful day. And excited to share some good foodie news.
So Sam is a 2018 graduate from Johnson & Wales here in Providence. You graduated from our culinary science and culinary nutrition programs. But you've been doing a lot since you graduated. And I thought you graduated in the 2020s. I can't believe it's been this long. But you've been a longtime friend of both Jamie and I and also the pod. Tell us what you do.
Yeah, so I get this question all the time, networking events and other things. And the short-term answer is kind of consulting, working in the chef world. Chef is another one that I say if I just want like a quick kind of thing. But consulting in the way that I have a bunch of different things that I do, whether it be food styling, videos, photography, sales, live demos, kind of anything like that. And I've kind of built a network of like culinary businesses that want to support that work, that are looking for people like me to do this type of work. So consulting is the short answer, but there's a lot that goes within that.
Okay, wow. That's like that sounds really interesting. Probably no 2 days are ever alike, but I can imagine that when you were in school and getting ready to graduate, this is not probably what you had pictured. So how did this come about? How did you find this path and kind of create your own business of you being a consultant?
Yeah, so it's one of those things that, like, backing up to my time at Johnson & Wales, I was actually really involved on campus with a few different clubs, I was involved with Cooking Asia. I was involved with the Pastry Arts Club, Peace Love Bread, and a few others. So I was always volunteering and meeting different groups of people and different business owners too, all the volunteer events, Newport Food and Wine, and the like. So even when I was at school, I was doing a bunch of different projects simultaneously while taking courses. I was really lucky that I didn't have to work at a restaurant or anything during my time in classes. I would work over the summers in restaurants, but I would have extra time just to kind of work and volunteer. So going through school was great. I started my own business while I was at school that is no longer functional, but gave me a lot of good foundational information. The business is no longer going just because there was a lot of different ideas within that project, I want to say. That's like the short-term answer. That's like a whole other story. But it led into a really cool opportunity to join with one of my best friend's companies, Forge to Table Knives. He had started in 2017. He was also a graduate of Johnson & Wales in 2019. When he was moving back to California, I was like, there's so much momentum out here. I had just left my own startup. Like, please let me pass the ball to me and let me run with it in New England. And then he was going to move back to California for the headquarters. So that was in 2019. And yeah, we've been running ever since then, kind of promoting this brand all around affordable knives, accessories, and apparel.
We love Forge to Table.
I've never heard of Forge to Table. Can you tell us more about them? This is amazing.
Oh, I sure can. So yeah, I'm sure
they are our sponsor. But that's, you mentioned something earlier, and maybe I can talk a little bit about the importance from your lens on this, because I think, or I assume this might be an area some students, recent graduates, struggle with, is this idea of throwing yourself into networking opportunities. What is your approach when entering someplace where, the networking is ripe and you know that there are connections out there that could lead to opportunities? How do you psych yourself up for that, and how do you approach those situations?
Yeah, so networking events can be intimidating sometimes. You always feel like you're the least experienced or you don't know anybody in the room. A lot of other people are feeling that way. So if I'm, at an event by myself, I don't really know anyone. I just find one person to strike up a conversation with, and sometimes it can be little small talk things. It can be about whatever the program or the networking event is about, and just asking questions, and it's like, you get so far just by asking the right questions. And that's been like a really interesting theme in my life and my career up to this point. I got one of my first really cool restaurant jobs just in high school because I asked the right questions to one of the chefs, just like, oh, how did you do this garnish? Like, how do you cook this, this specific fish the way that you presented it for this one bite? So it's all about the questions. It's all about kind of understanding what's going on and framing it. Sometimes the question is even more important than the answer.
Yeah, it's important you mention that because I feel like if you're not careful, you could go into an opportunity where you have access to people that could provide opportunities, and you think it's about you, but in reality, it's not about you. You have to ask those questions about other people to really show them that you can listen, show that you are interested in learning something new, and then obviously seal that with getting a connection and maybe following up at the end. But are there other instances in your career where obviously you talk about the internal Johnson and Wales networking with Noah and how that led to sort of your involvement in that company, but are there other sort of really like relevant opportunities that have come about because of this strength of yours, which is to go into an environment and network and to really seek out those opportunities?
All the time. I see a lot of success. In my consulting work, one of my main products is recipe writing and food styling and photography. So I would go to events like the Fancy Food Show in New York City, or I would go to the National Restaurant Show in Chicago. And it's about finding the right clientele, the people that are really having exciting products that align with what I want to work with. You don't have to take every single job. There's so much work out there. It's kind of identifying, oh, who do you want to work with? So definitely food shows are great, but then just other networking events within the Johnson and Wales network, within sustainability networks in your city. That's been a big goal of mine recently, is just promoting actionable food sustainability in the restaurant space across Boston and Providence. And I've been doing that with a really cool compost hauler called Bootstrap Compost for about the past year.
I know you recently just had a really cool opportunity in the spring to speak about this topic. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know that you were at the State House.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So going into the food sustainability space, there's a lot of action right now, especially in Rhode Island. It's a very special place because it is very geographically small, and there's just about 1 million people. So it's a great testing ground for a lot of progressive ideologies. Um, One of those that I went to the Rhode Island State House and spoke on was this bill that would promote composting at a municipal level by adding a surcharge to waste tipping fees. And this is something that not a lot of chefs or just general people really know about, like like uh, tipping fees and municipal tonnage of waste and stuff. But the distilled version of this is that it would add $2 for every ton of waste that goes to the landfill in Rhode Island. It's in Johnston, Rhode Island, um, and that $2 would add up to a fund to create a municipal composting network. This is to mitigate food waste on a home and residential scale. That's one of the biggest issues we've been seeing in the country and in Rhode Island specifically, is that there's a lot of waste being produced at home and there's nowhere to put it. Other places, like Washington State, have really robust composting programs, and the Northeast and Rhode Island just are really lagging behind in that realm. We've been seeing some progress with like the city of Cambridge in Massachusetts, but we're trying to do it a little differently and like across the board. So I went and I spoke. I waited 5.5 hours in the state house to actually speak on this bill. It was like I thought I was going to be there 2 hours, but I was literally waiting 5.5 hours to speak for 15 minutes. Totally worth it though, just to have my minute. Um, and yeah, it's right now it's still kind of in limbo if it's going to go through or not in this session, but it's, I think, a great idea. It will pay for itself in no time. Because right now, to give you an idea, waste tipping fees in Rhode Island are about $166 per ton. When the landfill is completely full in about 10 to 15 years, those fees will go double or triple if we have to ship all of our solid waste out to Pennsylvania or to Alabama, like a lot of other states like Connecticut have to do. And that will make taxes go way up more than $2 for that surcharge. So there's a lot in the food sustainability space I've been trying to work on. And again, it's all about networking. It's all about knowing who the players are and kind of putting the pieces together in that world. Bootstrap has been really fascinating for me, just to like connect restaurateurs and like other types of food businesses, event halls on like, hey, what is composting and why is it important, including schools as well. Excuse me.
So, Sam, let me just kind of interject there because I mean, this wasn't on the sort of agenda for us to about today, but I think the composting is so relevant and important. And if you can just kind of take it back a little bit, because what you're doing, obviously, great work, and it's at such like a high level, and it's in that advocacy space, which we know chefs belong in. But can you like kind of zoom out a little bit and talk about like just at its root, like the benefits of composting, and if you can, how you can kind of get into it more on the local level, like at your house. Like, are there things you can do to sort of make a difference without waiting 5.5 hours? But God bless you, man. Like that's we need people to do that. But if you don't have the time for that, how can you make a difference sort of at your house?
Of course. So yeah, zooming out, I started working with Bootstrap just about a year ago, and my big goal was that I had some free time. I was just leaving another kind of salesy position, and then I had this big network, and I was like, just introduced to the right person at the right time, where I could bring my network of chefs and restaurateurs and food businesses and actually bring them a really valuable service, which is like mitigating their trash costs. It's like we're looking at businesses in general, and overhead is so high right now. So I was like, this is good for the environment and it's good for the end business. And you think about the food system, and it should be a cycle. It should be a circle with the food that we produce, the food that we eat or don't eat, and then where does the waste go? Where does the orange peel? Where does like the bones that we don't use? Where does that actually go? When it goes to the landfill, it stays trash forever. It creates methane. It creates greenhouse gases more so than if it was naturally composted. So on an environmental standpoint, there's so much benefits to composting this organic waste and mitigating it from the landfill. Rhode Island, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, our one landfill in the state is going to be full in a couple of years, less than 20 years away. It's going to be at capacity, and we're going to have to, figure something out. But to extend the lifespan of that, composting is a big thing. So for people just at home, there, especially in like Providence, there are a few different resources. Zero Waste Providence is a really good one for just different levels of composting at home. There are community composters that you can reach out to, where you can actually bring, your compost in your own bucket and dump it on a community site. But there's also residential pickups where people will come to your house and swap out a bucket of compostable material and bring it back to their main headquarters, which they compost it there on site. Bootstrap Compost has a residential program, as well as Harvest Cycle. They're like a community composter, but there are many others. And Zero Waste Providence is a great resource for that, specifically in the Providence metro.
That's great information. Thank you for sharing all of that. You can tell that you're really passionate about this. And it kind of goes back to you being able to speak at the State House about it. And that kind of makes me think about that's public speaking and all of the networking that you're doing, that being public speaking, and then having to do some self-promotion. I can only imagine it just gets easier the more you do it and the more you put yourself out there. Because I know for a lot of people, self-promoting and putting themselves out there to sell what they want to do, like you said, you recipe create, you do food photography, you do all of these different things, but it kind of lands on you to promote yourself. So is it just repetition? Is it confidence? Is it practice? Like, what do you find has helped you be able to do that and have that skill?
Yeah, definitely. So practice is super important, but just doing it too, like the idea, fake it till you make it. You just keep faking it until you realize you were never faking it to begin with. You were always great. You always had this ability inside of you. It's just how refined can you get it? How sharp are your skills, from where you are now from a year ago? Like, a lot of people really don't realize how much they've grown in a year and how like amazing it is to be where you're at. Like I've been doing a lot of reflecting on that, like where I was a year ago, and like I can't imagine where I could be in like another 5 years or another 10 years if I like continue on this path doing all these little things, you know, where I get really cool opportunities for like full-time jobs. And I'm like, I kind of like what I'm doing right now. There's a lot of freedom to it, you know?
So let me ask you a question, Sam, because I think that what you just described, it does encapsulate where we are as an industry right now, which is this sort of merging of the old and the new. And I know we've been talking about this for a while, but like, restaurants today are different. And I know that you don't have that sort of old school path where you left college and you went to go work for a restaurant. You went to do something very much more entrepreneurial. But you talked a little bit about sort of understanding yourself and what you can bring to the table. And I think that that's something historically the restaurant industry has been really bad at is valuing self-worth, right? So are there tips that you would give to people that have just graduated or that are graduating on how to understand that they are, in your words, great, but also that there's still a long path ahead and what they can learn? Like, how do you balance like sort of that the mental side of it? Because I think that that's something that's super critical today in 2024.
Yeah, for sure. So something that I think about a lot when I'm on a photo shoot or I'm doing, different consulting work is you need to be comfortable being the bottom of the totem pole. There's a lot of benefit to being anonymous, to being kind of like, oh, underestimated, where it's like you'll always outperform their
Yeah.
expectations. You have a lot of freedom being the bottom of the totem pole, where it's just learn from everybody, learn from their success and learn from their mistakes. And even though I'm doing all these different things, I still feel like there's a lot of things that I'm learning every single day from my network, from the people that I'm consulting with. So just be comfortable kind of not being in charge, like let other people take the reins and just be a part of the team, get involved in the role and do the best you really can. That's gotten me
Yes.
so far, just being a team player in that way, where it's like, okay,
Such good advice.
yeah, it's not always, it doesn't have to be my project to really care about it, but just be
You,
comfortable being on the team.
you want to be the least experienced person in the room because that means that everyone else in that room is bulletproof and they are someone that you are going to absorb information. And the fact that you're even in the room it means that you are destined for great things. So I'll let you continue. I had to because what you're saying, it's gospel. It's like exactly what people need to be thinking about when they approach situations.
Yeah. And I'm nowhere near like my peak abilities. I don't think most people are in their 20s or even their 30s. So, yeah, I'm just learning as much as I can and being humble. I think the downfall of any leader, anybody on earth, is ego. You can be one of the greatest artists, one of the greatest chefs, one of the greatest speakers ever. But if your ego gets in front of you, you'll trip over it and you'll fall. The taller you are, the harder you'll fall, right? So I try to keep that in check. I try to stay humble. And another really important piece is just listening. Active listening has gotten me, like I said earlier, questions are important, but then listening to those answers are also very, very important, just to absorb information and understand the perspective of other people, whether it's work related or personal, right?
That's so true. It's so true. Listening is just as important as the questions. And we have been listening to all of these cool things you're doing. And my question is, I know your days aren't typical. You don't wake up, go to work, and come home. So what does a day, I won't call it a typical day, but what does a day look like for you when you've got many different projects going on?
For sure. So it's all about planning. With all these different things, it's not random or sporadic. I like to plan out my week at least a week ahead, where it's like, okay, on Friday, I know what next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are looking like. Obviously, that's very fluid. Things can move around. And just having a good plan for what's going forward. But I do a lot of travel, so it really depends if there's like travel happening. Just this afternoon, I'm traveling up to Hull, Massachusetts for a photo shoot. But then next week, I'm going to Nantucket for a chef training. And then I have other site visits for Bootstrap Compost. And then other recipe writing that I can just work from home. So a typical day is like generally not typical, but I really like the fluidity of it. I like kind of having a plan and then just being able to execute it. Where sometimes I feel like I need an assistant because such a big part of my job is just going through emails and like adding events, making sure my calendar is like on point. Sometimes I feel like I should add that to my like resume where it's just like expert calendar builder, something like that.
Well, with such a busy schedule, I hope you do get a chance to sort of take a break and enjoy, well, the weather's been godly hot these past couple of days, but it is summer. And, Jamie and I have been kind of dabbling in a little bit of the summer traditions throughout, the last couple of episodes. So I had to ask you about, something that I think everyone is doing right now, which is cooking burgers. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that your last name has similar letters, or maybe 100%. But either way, I want to ask Sam, what is the secret to a great summer burger, as we sort of flip the script from you to what everyone else is doing?
For sure. So yes, I love a good grill. I love a good burger. I think that what's really important is the fat to protein ratio. 80-20 is great, but sometimes if you do a little more fat, where it's like 70-30, that makes such a juicy, such a tender burger. Yeah. And then seasoning right before. I know some people, which I don't necessarily agree with, have their ground meat and then season it and mix it with their hand and then like slap it back and forth. I don't know. I just feel like that doesn't create the same like tender bite. It almost becomes like a little chewier, which I guess some people like. They like that chewy patty, but I love just like a medium rare, like thick, like 3/4 inch burger. Yeah, with a lot of good fat on it, and the pickles. If there's no pickles on my burger, it really, really irks me to the core of it, because ground beef is very rich and I don't eat it very often. If I do have it, I want something to balance it out. So I want like beautiful kosher dill pickles, extra pickles in general. And I actually really like ketchup on my burger. I don't know. That's just me. Or a really nice like aioli. It really depends. If it's like a really dried out like cookout burger, I need a lot of ketchup. If it's like a really nice burger that I made, it's more about like the pickles and like a really nice aioli.
I'm catching like a trend of like, you really like pickles.
Yes. Yeah. Extra pickles on the burger. Yep.
Now you mentioned like really good kosher dill. Like, what's your take on bread and butter pickles? Because you could argue that those also make a really good burger.
I think they're a little too sweet. I think it detracts from the savory flavor. I want something sharp, zippy, and garlicky to kind of balance that out. I understand some people that enjoy bread and butter pickles, but to me personally, they're kind of at the bottom of the pickle list,
Are we doing cheese or no cheese on this burger? You haven't mentioned.
Ooh, I always go for cheese. I do love American cheese on a burger. We're in America, might as well. But a really good Gouda also is delicious, or Munster. Just something melty, Even mozzarella, if that's the only thing you have, is really, really good.
I think American cheese, and maybe we've talked about this back when we reviewed the movie The Menu. Like, I think that it is an underrated sort of thing to have on your food. Is people kind of shy away from it because it gets a negative reputation, but it provides a very unique visual and flavor, element to a burger that you really don't get with cheddar or Gouda. I mean, those are all great cheeses for a burger, Sam, but I would agree with you that sometimes American cheese on a burger is just really good.
It's like the mouthfeel too, It's like, it's weird when you eat it right out of the fridge, right? It kind of feels like you're eating a piece of plastic. But once it's hot and melted, it's like something completely different,
So you mentioned fat content, and I mean 70-30, that's like danger zone fat. I love it. Juicy all the way. And like for that, you're probably using chuck or maybe some brisket. You're using something that has a lot of fat content. Jamie, I know you're not a big red meat eater. Let's talk about something that struggles in the fat world with turkey. My wife only eats turkey burgers. I know you're a big fan of turkey burgers. What do you think, Jamie? Are there secrets to making a turkey burger not suck?
Yes, don't overcook it is the biggest thing because they get dry really fast. That's like that's the biggest thing is just don't overcook it.
I think that a lot of people steer away from using thermometers on the grill. I mean, I don't know if it's an ego thing or they just want to be able to kind of prove that they can cook a good burger. And with ground beef, it can be really tough to sort of ensure that that temperature is accurate. But I will tell you, if I'm cooking a turkey burger, there is no better way or no better opportunity to use a thermometer than cooking a good turkey burger. Because what you're saying, Jamie, is perfect. I mean, overcooking it is blasphemy, and it can happen really, really quick.
And I know people, because with turkey and poultry, people are more scared to have it be underdone. So I
Totally.
think they err on the side of overdone. Whereas with a burger, it's not uncommon to see maybe a red or pink center. And it's a little bit more acceptable. You wouldn't want to eat like a semi raw turkey burger. So I think people just err on the side of I gotta make sure this is cooked and they don't temp it. But one thing we haven't talked about yet is the bun.
But matters.
I it does matter because I well, I'll say what I think after. Sam, what do you think about buns for burgers?
I mean, I think people get really creative, especially at restaurants, like the pretzel bun or the brioche milk bun. I think at home, sometimes I don't want it to detract from what I have inside the sandwich, you know? So sometimes just like a sesame seed roll is delicious, you know? It's right on point. Or even
Yeah,
like
or even
Texas
like
toast for
those
a
like
patty melt.
pack of
Yeah,
4 like little buns from my childhood. Those
totally.
like the cheap buns. I actually like those because I agree with what you say is sometimes if I get a turkey burger out at a restaurant, the bun is so big and massive. It's
Too
like
much.
more bun than yeah, it's too much and I'll either take half of it off or I won't eat it. It's just it's too much breading for the meat and condiments.
And like, you know, you see those really trendy burgers on Instagram or whatnot that are just like piled so high. It's like, how would a human eat that? Like, I can't unhinge my jaw
Exactly.
like a snake as much as I wish I could. Like, it's just not possible. So
Well,
I think the bun is important that it has like, it needs to be crispy on the side that touches like the mayo or the dressing, and then soft on the outside for gripping it. You know, that's a really
yeah.
important piece. I think most buns are good, but you want to toast it on the side that touches the meat and the fillings. That also helps it just be a little more like waterproof so it doesn't get soggy. It stays crispy through and through.
No, Sam, that's a great point, and I think that was one of my questions: is to grill or not to grill the bun, or to griddle even better. The bun would be like really, really ideal. But I think the message that we're trying to, or at least I think we're conveying here, is simplicity can be really, really great. Now, flavor preferences aside, you really have kind of a weird obsession with pickles and you really just love pickles, or you want like just ketchup. I think that it's choose one or two and stick with that. Don't overcomplicate it, because what you mentioned, Sam, about these like sort of burgers that are like 10 feet high, it's impossible to eat and it's just going to be such a mess on the plate. One or two ingredients: a little cheese, nice grilled bun, simple burger, and then whatever garnishes you like, whether that's mayo, ketchup, pickles, onions, something simple that's going to make a nice, solid bite. Really nice.
Totally. Yeah, I'd say like thinly sliced onions. They need to be super thin if they're raw, a little thicker if they're like griddled or grilled. Mayo, a dash of ketchup, and extra pickles on a grilled bun with American cheese. That's like the build that I want right now for lunch.
That's going to be the Sam burger. I love it. I love it.
Sam burger, exactly.
All right. Well, Sam Burgess, thank you again for joining us, and really, forget burger stuff aside, thanks for sharing your story and really hopefully providing sort of a pathway for people that are looking to do something untraditional and showing them how to do it in a really, really cool way, because you're the man, brother.
Thank you. Yeah. And again, it's all about asking the right questions. It's all about listening to those answers and just keeping your heart and your mind open. You know, like you'll never know everything in the world. It's just staying vigilant for opportunities and listening to what's important.
And if people want to keep up with what you're doing, where can they find you on socials?
Totally. So my Instagram is my name, but the letters are switched. So instead of Sam Burgess, it's Bam and then dot period Surgess, Surgess. So pretty easy to follow me. I post a lot of travel. I post a lot of my recipe content for specific clients. And yeah, it's a ton of fun. Also, Forge to Table is a great way to see the content that me and my collaborators have been working on. That's just at Forge to Table. Really fun knives, giveaways, all types of benefits to following that page. And yeah, LinkedIn as well. Happy to connect with prospective students, current or recent graduates, just to keep the conversation going, because you never know when a connection will turn into a really amazing opportunity. I believe in
Cool.
that, every day is a new opportunity for something special to happen. So get out there.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, we'll link your Instagram in the show notes, and also we'll throw the links in there for some of those amazing businesses as you mentioned: Bootstrap Compost, Harvest Cycle, and Zero Waste Providence. We'll throw those in there as well, because if you're looking to get more into the advocacy side, I think those are great outlets to start your journey. So, Sam, I know you're going to do a photo shoot right now. Thanks again for taking the time, and we'll see you in August when you come by for the dinner.
I'm glad I didn't have to cancel. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you guys.
Bye.